Good evening, everyone. And thank you, Martin, to invite me to this meeting. I am Sebastian Sprengers. I'm a hobbyist beekeeper, started in 1972 with my first colony. I worked as a professional beekeeper in the late 70s in Canada, and I did a master on honeybee behavior in Costa Rica. The hives you see here on the picture are mine. The picture was taken in October last year when the asters or the Michaelmas daisies were in full bloom. I have, every year I winter about 3 or 4 colonies. I have a reasonable swarm control, and each year my honey harvest is about 20 to 25 kilograms of honey per colony per year. In my contribution to this meeting, I would like to share a few thoughts about quantifying the floral resources in your area for honeybees. In the last few years, I've organized courses and lectures for beekeepers about floral resources. It's all about identifying the important species in your bee pasture and about guessing the carrying capacity of your own bee pasture. I always start these lectures with one question. How many linden trees have you planted during your beekeeping career? I would like to invite you too to give your answer to this question. And please use the chat function at the bottom of your screen to write your answer down. Well, of course, it's not me who will enjoy the shade of this tree, and neither will my bees enjoy its pollen and nectar, because you know, the best time to plant this tree was already 20 years ago, and this picture was taken last winter. However, the second best moment to plant a tree is today. I think it's crucial for every beekeeper before you start a new apiary to qualify and to quantify the floral resources in your area. Well, of course, most preferably, there should be many different plant species to guarantee a long succession of flowers. And above all, flowers should be present in large quantities and large and high densities. Apart from all kind of managerial aspects of your apiary, like the position to the sun, the accessibility, the risks of flooding, the safety for trespassers, etc., etc. The very, very main factor for successful beekeeping is the availability of floral resources. So far, so good. However, the question remains, can one quantify the floral resource? Or if you like so, can one quantify the carrying capacity of a certain area for honeybee colonies? I will give an example, and I really would like to hear from you how you are managing the amount of colonies in your area. My example is no rocket science, but it's based on experience as a hobby beekeeper and on what I've learned in commercial beekeeping, where honey production was the main goal. Given a 1 kilometer long lane with mature linden trees with a total width of about 40 meters, this will make about 4 hectares with 80% cover of flowers. If you count 4 colonies per hectare at the very maximum for excellent nectar flow, and I consider linden as an excellent nectar flow, you will end up with a total nectar flow for 16 colonies during fluorescence of this lane. In commercial beekeeping, these figures are significantly lower, less hives per hectare. Of course, these figures are highly dependent on weather and soil, etc., etc. And in some years, but that's had nothing to do with carrying capacity, you can have a surplus of honeydew in August and September. Okay, the second example. Here you see a satellite image of the area around my apiary at the edge of the village of Driebergen. My hives are exactly in the middle of this picture. Notice you see pastures for dairy farming. You see parkland and woodland here in the east, and in the northwest is urban area of the village of Driebergen. I figure about 80% of my floral resources are in this area, in parks and lanes and a lot of linden trees, etc. Here I've drawn 2 circles around my apiary. One 250-meter circle for the early spring flights, and another one of 1,500 meters for the summer flights. Of course, honeybees can fly a lot further than 1,500 meters, but that's for perfect weather only. And usually in Holland, the weather is not perfect, even not in the summertime. I've counted and estimated the amount of mature trees for bees, like linden and other trees, within the larger circle. And to do this, I just jumped on my bike and counted all the trees in every street and every garden, where possible. For linden, I ended up with a figure of about 3.5 to 4 kilometers of lanes with mature linden trees within the 1,500 meter circle. This would mean that during the flowering periods of linden, which is usually in June, there is space for about 64 colonies to forage on linden flowers in this circle. I've tried to execute this exercise for all other major floral resources as well. In other words, I have attempted to observe the total area through the eyes of my bees. The next step in this example, can I find out where my colleague beekeepers have their apiaries? Which apiary has an overlap with my 1,500 meter circle? This picture shows only a few of my colleagues, and each blue dot represents more than 5 colonies. And sometimes one blue dot represents up to 40 colonies. Of course, it's not all that easy. The overlap is not complete. Unfortunately, the linden trees are clustered in the urban area, and it's exactly there where the carrying capacity may be exceeded and where weaker colonies may suffer during the main nectar flow in the summer. For the total of my floral resources, I've made a calendar. Yellow is for significant plant species for colony development only. Green is for plant species which produce serious pollen or nectar flow. And the color red is for the main floral resources. In my view, all 3 categories are essential for maintaining healthy colonies. The main goal for making such a calendar is planning for hive management. Once you know your floral resources, you can anticipate on expected nectar flow by preparing your production colonies in time. For example, my own hive management is focused on optimizing the amount of forager bees in June and July. And I'm looking forward to match this calendar with the data from the beep bases I'm going to work with next summer. Will it be possible to link the influx of nectar to this calendar, and also will it give useful information for hive management in future years? The above graph of the beep scale under one of my hives last year shows the gaining of weight during the flowering of linden, chestnut, and a few other species. Obviously, the calendar color for linden is red. Between mid-June and mid-July, the weight of this hive increased with about 35 kilograms. And the empty honey supers were placed on the hive before June the 17th. On the other hand, the bottom graph from mid-August to mid-September gives significant information too. apart from feeding the sugar syrup for winter storage around mid-August, I'm really surprised about a steady decrease in weight after the syrup was concentrated and capped. The graph shows a loss of weight of about 1 kilogram per week, which seems significant to me. Finally, I will end this contribution with 2 more questions for you. Do you attempt to quantify your bee pasture? And if so, how do you quantify it? And second, how do you match the amount of colonies in your area with the available floral resources? Well, thank you very much for attending and looking forward to your answers. Thank you, Martin.